Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Hope so you are all fine. This is your science class and we are doing chapter 5, food chains and food webs. The topic for today's discussion is food webs. Student, food webs is a kind of interaction between different organisms, and we can say that when several food chains are interconnected to each other, they will form food web. So every organism in a food web is linked either directly or indirectly to each other. So this is interaction of organisms. Any change to one population in the food web will affect the other populations in the food web. If we talk about example of food web, then example of zebras and lions shows that predators limit the number of prey in a habitat and the prey limits the number of predators in the habitat. How it happened? If predators are more, they will feed on prey and automatically the number of prey will reduce. But due to reduction of the number of prey, predators will not get enough food and they will also get minimized or reduced in size. So there is thus an equilibrium where the total number of predators and prey are both limited to ensure the survival of both species. So students, if a large number of predators is introduced in a habitat, a large number of prey will be eaten. As the number of prey will decrease, the predators will not have much food to eat and reproduce, so the number of predators will also decrease. As you have learned from the case study, food webs are directly or delicately balanced. Any change in just one link in a food chain can upset the equilibrium of entire food web. That if there are not enough predators, there will be more prey, and when predators will feed on prey, they will also increase in number. But if they increase, prey will decrease due to consumption of food of predators, and automatically predator will also decrease due to insufficient amount of food of prey. So if we talk about equilibrium of food web, then we can say if we remove producers from a food web, the production of energy will stop, because producers are the main link or main source or main entrance of food web, and it is the source of energy. But if we remove producers from a food web, the production of energy will stop and there will be no energy transfer among a food chain. So for equilibrium of food web, everything must be in balance. There are some key points on page number 119 of your book. The first one is about producer, and you know that producers are those organisms which can produce their own food by using sunlight, such as plants, because they use light energy from the sun to produce their own food during photosynthesis. The second point is consumers, and consumers are those animals. They can be herbivores, they can be carnivores, and they can also be omnivores. And they feed on plants or animals or both to obtain energy, and they will be known as consumers. The third point is about food chain, and you know that food chain shows the transfer of energy in the form of food through organisms in a habitat. So it is a link, or it is the form of interaction between different organisms. If we talk about food web, then food web will be formed by combination of different food chains. So we can say that several food chains are interconnected to form a food web. And a food web shows the food relationships among organisms and how energy is transferred from the producers to consumers in the form of food. It also shows predator-prey relationships. And every organism in a food web is linked either directly or indirectly to one another. So any change to one population in the food web will affect the other populations in the food web. If there are not sufficient amount of producers, then there will be not sufficient amount of herbivores. And due to less number of herbivores, there will be less number of primary consumers, then secondary, and then tertiary. So all the organisms in a food web is linked either directly or indirectly to one another, and any change to one population in the food web will affect the other population in the food web. So their balance, their number, their interaction is very much important for the formation of food web. Students, I have explained page number 118 and 119 of your book from chapter 5, Food Chains and Food Webs. If you find any difficulty or any problem in this lecture, you can ask me. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.